Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for Monday, the 26th of June, 2017. Let's see what's happening in the eastern Pacific. We have Hurricane Dora off the coast of Mexico by a far enough margin that it won't pose any major impacts to the area. Moving on off to the west-northwest with time towards cooler water temperatures out here. And I'll be able to show you that. In fact, that's starting to happen right now. This is the latest infrared satellite picture, and you can see that, let's zoom back in on it, there we go, really don't have much in the way of deep convection compared to what it was. I'll show you that in a moment. A ragged eye right here, a few rain bands trying to make their way on shore, but overall the effects will be fairly minimal for the coast of Mexico. Now, if we look at the satellite animation, look at earlier, several hours ago, a lot more in the way of reds and even some dark grays showing up, indicating higher cloud tops and a more intense system, but those have faded away, and that began roughly right along in here in terms of its track. See that? Right before that line, everything was going pretty well, and then it really started to drop off, maybe even before that over here. Why is that? And it's heading in this direction too, I might add. Well, the sea surface temperatures are colder than they normally are, starting at about right in here, and that's where Dora is located. All these blues up through here indicating, in some cases, much colder sea surface temperatures than normal for this time of year. And so this was updated today. This is the 26th of June. NOAA-NESDIS anomaly map. It's just a certain methodology used to derive these departures from normal, and you can see it's a little bit warmer than normal in the eastern Pacific, but nothing overwhelmingly so. All of this seems to be sort of waxing and waning, ebbing and flowing, all those good things, with the end result basically being neutral conditions, or maybe just the warm side of neutral. Over here in the Atlantic Basin, sea surface temperatures anomalies continue to be a little bit warmer than they should be, and in some cases quite a bit warmer over in the eastern Atlantic, in some cases averaging close to 1 degree Celsius above the long-term average, and that is going to lead to probably a continuation off and on. We're going to have waves of activity followed by lulls of activity, and even in the very busy 2005 season, just for slight comparative purposes here, there were periods of time where we didn't see any activity. Will there be anything in the near future? Well, looking at the visible satellite animation for the Atlantic Basin this afternoon, really nothing to be concerned with. Strong upper-level winds coming out of the Caribbean, and generally a not favorable MJO pattern over this area, basically equating to the lack of convection is what it comes down to. Some people call it sort of the hammer of Thor, smashing the clouds down. I like that analogy. And through this region, really nothing going on. I drew an arrow by accident there. I've been on the road the last few days, just got back in on Friday, so still trying to recover from that. So bear with me a little bit here. But you folks down in the islands, no activity coming your way in terms of a named storm, but you do have this sort of broad turning with this tropical wave coming, and that'll pass through the area, bringing showers and thunderstorms. But I don't see anything in the global models to worry about, and nothing developing in the near future. The climate forecast system is an interesting tool to use. Each of these panels, the first one here at the top would be your current analysis, and then this goes out really the next 40 days. And what we're looking for, this is the Western Hemisphere over here for the most part. North and South America, this is basically a strip right through the tropics on each of these panels, going out 5 days, and each one of them. And so the lack of any green in the next week to 10 days or so shows that there isn't really much activity expected in the Atlantic. Once we get into July, maybe the beginning the second third of July, start seeing some more of this green showing up, indicating a possible return to more activity, and then all this brown centered across this time span out in the central and western Pacific. And as such, we may end this sort of lull in activity as we get into July, something to watch for. Cindy, I want to show you this, a recap of Cindy real quick. This was a few days ago before it made landfall. A beautiful satellite picture. You can see the very deep moisture feed that was funneling its way in to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Alabama, Florida Panhandle. Louisiana was mostly spared the extreme rainfall. There's the center of circulation in there. Finally, it made landfall up near Lake Charles, and then it moved on around sort of the periphery of this big high pressure area that sits over the western Atlantic, extending into the Gulf of Mexico. So what was the impact overall? Well, very heavy rainfall along portions of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and you can see that here in this map that was updated recently. The bullseye was down here in Jackson and Harrison counties, Gulfport, Biloxi, Ocean Springs area, Gaucher, in those regions, especially right along the I-10 corridor. But then those rainfall rates dropped off pretty substantially, and that owes to the fact that the center of circulation made landfall over here, but the heaviest of the effects was felt far away from that center, and that included even tornadoes, several of them, and unfortunately there was loss of life from this tropical storm. So folks that were kind of minimalizing it as just a tropical storm, they were wrong, because this definitely had an impact. In fact, this is a picture that I took of flooding in the Ocean Springs area. Not the worst flooding of all time, certainly, but this is enough of an impact for these people that live here and work in the area, and it goes to show you that even though it's, quote, just a tropical storm, does not mean that it will come in harmlessly. Cindy, a good lesson in that. All right, so we'll keep an eye on what's happening with Dora, but since it's moving away from land, we're not going to worry about it too much. So that will be it from me for this week, unless something else pops up. So have a great rest of your week ahead. The tropics should be nice and quiet, especially in the Atlantic Basin. And again, with Hurricane Dora, no worries for land masses. The Baja, mainland Mexico, no problems at all. So have a great rest of your week ahead. I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website. And, of course, for Hurricane Pro and HD, I'll be back with you a week from today.